Okay, welcome back. Some introduction to the literary elements then. Plot, starting out on that, what I posted, the literary elements. Plot is just the sequence of events, so it's not really much critical thinking involved. The guy goes here, he does that, the person gets hurt, he goes to the hospital. It's just the events that occur. Whereas next, character is probably one of the most important things about a literary work. Primarily in terms of character change. So oftentimes, like if you think of a film, a lot of my examples will be from film, but a film like American Beauty, where at the beginning of a story we see a person who has come to some point in his life where he's in the midst of some turmoil and he's going to start changing. So we'll watch his transformation, and then by the end of the story, we may see that he's a different person. And so we can talk about characters as being flat or round. A flat character or a static character just stays the same throughout a story, whereas a round or a dynamic character is kind of in flux or is not nailed down. The examples I use are from film. One is from the movie Shawshank Redemption. If you've seen it, you recall Andy is imprisoned, for a crime he didn't commit, and Morgan Freeman's in prison, and he's kind of the guy that can get you things, right? And Andy is saying, like, what have you lost hope? Like, you don't even want to get out on the outside and try life outside of the prison. And finally, by the end of the story, Morgan Freeman wants to get out and see Andy, so Andy has kind of acted on Morgan Freeman and changed him. Another film stars Morgan Freeman, and that's Seven. You may have seen it. Again, Morgan Freeman is the kind of character that's in flux. He's the detective who's kind of angry at the ills of the world, and he's ready to quit being a detective. And Brad Pitt's the new crime fighter and the young cop who acts on Morgan Freeman, and by the end of the story, Morgan Freeman has changed and he's going to stay on the force. So if you've seen those films, those examples are may be relevant. Another aspect to character change is the coming of age story, and in that story we usually witness a young character who is undergoing some conflict and then moves into adulthood. So he comes of age. Also with character is reader identification, and that's how much you identify or how much the reader identifies with the character, what the character's going through. Those are important aspects of character. And also next is the epiphany. An epiphany is some type of realization that a character comes to, some type of understanding, like the light bulb goes off, bing, over his head, and he maybe comes to some resolution to some problem or figures something out. It's an epiphany. Next we have conflict. Is the basic problem in a story. It seems like basically every story has some type of problem or something's wrong, and the characters are asked to figure it out. On to theme, we can define as back to conflict. There may be more than one conflict or various aspects of the conflict as well. On to theme, though, theme can be described as the basic meaning of a literary work. So what idea is the author trying to get across? And I'd ask you to try to state the theme in a complete sentence. So life is worth living, or appreciate what we have, or life's a bitch, or the grass is always greener. Those are all sentences. Whereas death or life or freedom, those aren't sentences. Those are just ideas. So I'd ask you to try to state theme in a complete sentence. Though we might talk about those, death and life and afterlife or rebirth, as thematic elements. Not necessarily a statement of theme, but just thematic elements that might run through the work. And I'll have more to say in the lecture on theme, and that's that week. Tone we can define as the basic mood of the work. What's the author's emotion? You know, as he's telling the story, is he excited or angry or happy or elated, or is it confusing? You know, what's the basic mood of the story? The style we can define as the kind of formal aspects of the writer's method, meaning how does he write? Is like Hemingway, for instance. If we take Hemingway, his sentences are short and not really ornate or adorned, or, you know, there's not a bunch of adjectives. They're kind of just right to the point. Whereas Faulkner has these long sentences that go on for a whole paragraph. They're 10 lines long, and it's just like over the top way, a bunch of description and things like that. So what's the sentence structure that the author uses, the writer uses, even the word choice? You know, is it to kind of even a poetic language, even if it's just prose fiction? Also, how much figurative language is used even. On to symbolism. A symbol is some object in the story that the writer gives special significance. So if we're reading a story and there's a tree in the story in the beginning, you know, just because there's a chair or a car doesn't mean necessarily it's a symbol. But if the writer returns to it and gives it some special significance, then